Erik Weir, thank you for joining me on Listening with Leaders. You are the principal at WCM Global Wealth Managers, and you can be found at erikweir.com. Erik spelled E-R-I-K, Weir, W-E-I-R. Thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
As I said before the call, I was pretty interested that we're both martial artists and we're both airplane pilots.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is about martial arts and flying, but they seem to go hand.
It's so funny is oftentimes martial arts, flying, and scuba diving. I find that a lot of people scuba dive to do that. I also scuba dive.
I've done a little scuba diving. I am a water guy, but I'm an alpine skier. That's kind of my thing.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is skiing. Yeah, that happens. Maybe it's regional.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you've done a lot of really interesting things in your life. Tell us a little bit about your life journey and how you ended up to where you are today.
Yeah, I guess one of the most defining things for me was a setback, right? I had an automobile accident when I was 5 years old, and I lost the ability to speak with any fluency really till my late 30s.
Wow.
And it was really bad. It took me 2 days to even say my name. And of course you get hazed and picked on. And probably the most defining thing was my non-politically correct speech therapist. And I'm in there, I'm 5 years old, 1972, and my mind's eye, my legs are hanging off the side of the chair. But she tells me effectively, life's going to be hard for you. Everything's going to be hard. You're going to want to be reclusive. You're going to be withdrawn. You're not going to communicate. And that'll set you up for a life of failure. However, if you push through and realize every day is going to be hard, you push through the stutter, you meet people, you put yourself in front of things, and you overcome those obstacles, you'll be very successful because you'll just see every obstacle as another thing to push through. And she was right. And my parents, to their credit, didn't say, oh, she's a quack or don't worry about that. She goes, that was some good advice. So they set me up with a lemonade stand my very first day. Right after, almost in my mind's, it was like that afternoon. It was right away. I was selling lemonade, and I was 5 years old. We're near a school, and I made a sign, spray painted lemonade 50 cents, and people would drive up. And when your name's Erik Weir, E's are hard to say, W's are hard to say, F's are impossible. So I was Erik Weir with 50-cent lemonade. So they come up and how much is the lemonade? I'd point to it, and I go, and they would say, how much is the lemonade? And I'm like, oh. So I go 50 cents. And the best part of it is I never got 50 cents. I get $1, I get $5. It's fantastic. In 1972, I made $82. And my first day out at 5 years old, my dad came on, how'd you do? And I said, I made $82. He's like, I'm not sure I made $82 today. So that was it. That was my start, right? But, yeah, and it was funny. Then my second day I go out and I had a banner day. My parents are trying to set up the dinner table and they're looking for the glassware. And they said, where is it? And I said, I sold it all. And then I realized about cost of goods sold. So I had 2 business lessons right at 5. Selling success with no cost. Parents covered everything. And then selling success where I had to replace the glassware. So both of those really taught me a lesson that I keep in my mind today. And I guess after that, we ended up doing, martial arts. Sadly, because I got picked on, right? I wanted to learn martial arts and defend my, create an air of like, don't mess with them. And I stuck with that for a while. And I learned a lot from my karate instructors. Chuck Norris was one. And I think the pivotal thing that I learned in the code of ethics was number 8 that says I'll be as enthusiastic about the successes of others as I am about my own. And that was really something that stuck with me. And they were talking about being grateful and being enthusiastic. And those were things I learned through martial arts. Wow. And then that I thought that to this day are quite helpful.
Well, there's the third thing that we have in common. I had severe disabilities as a child.
Oh, wow.
And I had to do exactly what you're talking about, push through all of them with not a lot of help.
Yeah, that's how that goes.
Oh, man. It's a brutal childhood for sure.
Oh, you get picked on all the time, and they get nicknames and all kinds of stuff. Kids are vicious, so it was hard.
And then you adapt to it, and of course I picked up a whole bunch of bad attitudes. I mean, not that I get in trouble, but I mean, just emotionally, I was kind of a mess. It took me a long time to work through all of that. Yeah, interesting. So, so today you are what would you say your primary business is today? I know you've
I
done.
would say, yeah, we manage money for a number of wealthy people, and I guess our focal point would be alternative assets, meaning things that are not directly correlated to the movement of the stock market or bond market.
Hmm.
Okay. And things we get involved in are things like, helping people, be part owners with us of self-storage facilities, like physical self-storage. Our Top Golf, we've done 5 in the US, and we're building quite a few of them in Europe now. So that's, I mean, that's an alternative asset. It's a real estate, there's cash flow. So if you think of it that way, and I guess a way to describe it would be alternative assets, and we do a bit of venture capital as well. So venture capital, and that basically means you invest in operating companies before they go public.
Right. What gets you excited in the morning to get up and get going?
I'm excited. I mean, I just live excited. It's just like I'm excited when I go to bed, and excited when I wake up. It's just I love the challenges. I love working with meeting new people, and I love doing something hard. I mean, raising money for Top Golf, and keep in mind we got involved in that probably 2018 in the U.S. and had some success with early locations, and then we're trying to bring it to Europe. And I kept asking, can I meet the European master franchises? Because I like structuring deals and raising capital, and that's one of my strong suits. So yeah, I met them, and then we agreed to do business together, and we began to fund their company along with some others. And then we faced tremendous challenges called COVID. So wow, they shut down entertainment venues. I mean, it was like you're out, right? And then on top of that, you're trying to sell or educate a population about Top Golf that's never heard of it. And the fact that golf's in the name, they think it's like green grass golf, and it's not. It's nothing to do with that. And that was a very difficult thing. I heard no over from 100 different banks on finding financing, literally 100 in a row. Never had that much resistance. But I will say about the European culture, I heard no in the most professional, polite way. I almost felt bad for them saying no to me. Like, I'm terribly disappointed we're unable to do this for you, Mr. Weir. And at the end of the day, you're like, wow, you're apologizing for them, like they're emotionally impacted by it. But I never felt so good hearing no so frequently.
Huh.
And but it all came together at the end, and then we opened up, and we've had a lot of success. We're now the one in Oberhausen has set 6 world attendance records. Despite when we first opened, there was only 4% brand awareness. Now there's over 50% brand awareness. So it's been very exciting.
What is Top Golf?
Exactly. Now imagine in Europe, you can go to Vegas and see one, or California, but you're in Europe, they're a long way away. So it's basically an entertainment venue it's multi-level. It's 3 levels of hitting bays, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
And the hitting bays contain sofas and love seats and chairs, or it could be bar stools and tabletop. And there's food served, right? And then the median is a golf club. You're hitting off a mat, right? And the ball is being tracked with a laser technology. And you have widescreen TVs that you can watch sports or things on it, or watch your own gameplay. So if you think about it, it's entertainment meets golf, meets food, meets a bar, meets music, and it's very infectious. And if you hit a golf ball, there's something that happens in your brain, just the connectivity and physicality of it, and then you introduce food, beverage, American music, and a lot of laughter and enjoyment, and it's very, very popular. For example, we may have attendance approaching 3,000 people in one day. So it's very well attended.
Wow. And so this is just a place that people go to, like a bar or a theater.
Yeah, it's a bar. It's 11 acres of 9, 10, 11 acres. It was actually bought by a public company, Callaway Golf, the U.S. Part was, and now it's becoming a very large portion of their business. So much so that Callaway changed their name to Callaway Top Golf.
Wow.
So it's a big thing. It feels like I was talking to people there trying to explain it, and I said, well, they didn't think it would work. And I love people tell me stuff like that, So it was like, okay, and I'm like, was your grandfather telling Ray Kroc that McDonald's wouldn't work in France because they like more sauces, or it wouldn't work in Italy because it's not pasta, or Starbucks wouldn't work in London because it's not tea, or it wouldn't work in China, when you realize Starbucks had the best earnings ever just recently because of China. and they thought it wouldn't work in China.
Right.
And it's sort of like, I feel like Ray Kroc in the 1950s taking the concept to Europe.
Huh. Interesting. So what is it that's unique about you that you bring to all of this?
I think I'm a visionary, and I can kind of see things that don't exist. And I can put things together in my head of like, how can I structure a business? How can we source capital and talent, and then empower the people, and then not micromanage them, have them do what they do best, and just report back. So I think that's something I've been able to figure out over the years. And there are plenty of things I don't know how to do. And one of the best things is to try to find people that have, a different skill set than I do, and empower them. And then I try not to drive them too crazy, because oftentimes the visionary personality and the operations person, they have an appreciation for each other, but they frustrate each other.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and it's not, visionaries aren't always the best to execute a plan either.
oh, we're terrible at that. No, we're good at casting the vision, but I recognize that. And boy, I sure have some amazing people who have been partners over the years, and particularly now that their skills wildly exceed mine in that area.
Mm-hmm. But you see the stuff that nobody else can see, and persuade them to follow the vision.
Yeah, there's without a vision, the people perish is a proverb, and the more you can see it, the more energy you have, the more clarity you have of what you want to accomplish, really in anything in life. But when you're trying to vision cast a concept that doesn't exist in a foreign country, that was a new level. That was a new level, and it raised $50 million to do it. So
wow.
that was a big undertaking, and we got it done.
Yeah.
So,
patience and persistence, right?
Actually, yeah, persistence, yeah, for sure. Patience as well, and then just resilience. So I read something the other day. It's not a proverb, but it's almost like one. It said that intelligence is great, but it won't overcome persistence. And we went through all the different attributes we could have, and they said persistence is the one that pays the dividends, like through tough times and good times. And I would say persistence and gratitude. You'll never, to me, you will never climb higher than you are grateful.
That's right. Gratitude is huge, and I don't think we are all nearly as great express our gratitude as often as we should.
No, it's so true, but it's really makes life a lot easier, and you're more pleasant person, and you realize you don't take yourself too seriously either, because you'll have setbacks. And I told my sons growing up, I have 5 sons, I said, there's 2 types of people. What's that, Dad? I said, those who are humble and those who are soon to be.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, it really is. I resemble that comment, so I need to.
In my former life as a trial lawyer, I encountered that kind of problem a lot.
Oh, sure.
Interesting. So what advice would you give to a young person starting out today? You've been around.
Well, that's a great question. I would say,
I was going to say, it's so different. What we grew up with is so different than the world that exists today.
Yeah, and I was talking to a graduating class last week, not at their graduation, but they just happened to be a class in finance. I was talking to at the university, and a lot of them are concerned about a recession that we're in. They're hearing of layoffs and fear and all that's gripping them. And I in my opinion, they're probably starting at one of the most exciting times in history, where you can accelerate with technology. You need ChatGPT. Who knows what that does, but certainly can be used to educate, to articulate, to represent. And I feel like there's so much access to capital and education that is really almost limitless. Like if I wanted to figure out how to do something, I can put it in Google. I can watch a YouTube video. I can all this. There's so much opportunity today, and I've never seen more people who are complacent and almost entitled. So if you are focused and have a little bit of ambition and persistence, coupled with the availability of information technology, I think the gap between that person and the complacent, sort of not motivated person will likely be wider than it ever has been in history.
And so a few are going to be very successful and the rest are going to be not so successful.
It feels that way, but I think they'll have a reasonable quality of life. But I just think that maybe that's part of it, because they're able to have a reasonable quality of life without doing a whole lot.
Right.
And I think that more than any time in history, that's the case. If you think about somebody today, more people have better health care than John D. Rockefeller had. People have better means of transportation. They have more accessibility to information and education than he had, and he was the richest man in the world. And that wasn't that long ago. And that's a massive change for humanity. And if you're focused and intentional, I think what you can accomplish is unbelievable. So directly, I tell people, think of 5 areas of life. What's your belief system? I call that faith. And then think about your family, your fitness, your finances, and your friends. And think about, imagine that was a wheel and each were a spoke. And all of us are going to have some variability. You know, maybe our finances are bad, or relationships are taking a hit, or whatever you believe. It's not always going to be round, but if you're aware where it needs time as you go through life, it's helpful, because oftentimes you put too much emphasis on one area with a lumpy wheel, and at some point the areas you ignore will tax you in the end quite heavily, where you try to spend time and resources to get your health back, or to get relationships rekindled, or to get, you know, life can get away from you. And I was looking at I was talking to my brother yesterday, and we're like, wow, I remember, like I remember 1972. That was a long time ago, right? And you know, I remember like it was yesterday, and time just goes by so quickly. The days are long and the years are fast. So.
That's a great saying. Yeah, 1972. Let's see, I was a junior in college. Yeah, I went to Dartmouth, so I was.
There you go. Yeah, great school.
Remember a long time ago. Interesting. So this show is called Listening with Leaders for a reason. I'm really I have a real big thing about listening. Tell me about the importance of listening in your work and what you do.
Well, my mom had a lot of wisdom. When I grew up, she goes, Erik, and I stuttered anyway, so it made, you know, listening easy for me.
Right.
But she said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Use them in that proportion. So I'm like, okay. So that was good. So, I mean, listening is very important. Obviously, you're a student. I'm a lifetime learner. I'm finishing my master's at Harvard right now. I have one more semester. I was actually there this last weekend, and I did that not to advance my career, but it's just something I've always wanted to accomplish, and I enjoy it. And I want to do some adjunct teaching. I thought that'd be a good credential to have. But I'm listening, learning to them. I've learned things from an Uber driver. One of my greatest life lessons was from an Uber driver one time. I was like, that was so brilliant what he said. But I think you can learn from just about everybody if you keep your ears open, and you can learn things to do, and you learn things not to do, you know, and I think that that's really important. And then I think to sharpen your mind, you use Audible, you listen to books, or read books. But I tell people to always work on a book all the time. I try to read 52 a year, and then I try to do very different things, and sometimes different topics. But it's fun, it's educational, and I learn a lot. And you oftentimes can be a little bit more conversant if you've had a little exposure to something.
That's right. What kind of airplane do you have?
I have a Citation, so that's a jet, 2 pilots, 9 in the back. So it's
And you're rated in it?
I'm rated in a King Air. No, I'm not. I'm rated through King Airs. I sold my King Air, I guess, 2 years ago, and went into a partnership with another 2 gentlemen on a Citation. Huh. And I must say that I miss flying, but it is not bad being a passenger either. So I've begun to enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I've actually had the itch to get something that I'm comfortable in, or get something, or learn. But this particular Citation is one that requires it's not a single pilot airplane.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I've got a little RV6, two-seater,
Oh, those are fantastic. Yeah, those are great.
kind of screaming fast little airplane.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who owns a Pilatus, but his favorite thing, and I'm not even sure what he calls it, but he basically has effectively a fan on his back, and it blows up this kite effectively, and it's almost like kite flying. Or I don't think that's the correct name, but you go like 50 to 80 miles, and he's literally gets up in the air like 500 feet, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. He thinks it's safe and fun, but he hasn't talked me into it yet.
I don't know at my advanced age where I really want to take.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm down there either. No.
So you've been alluding every now and then that life is not always straight and the path easy. What do you do? What do you do when people bring messy situations to you?
I get that a lot. So it's messy situations. I don't know. I think the more activities you engage in, the more opportunity you have for that sort of thing. But you just stop and think. And a lot of times there are situations that you can improve upon. Sometimes there are things you just try to have a controlled crash, and there, and there's some things that you can maybe do a lot with, right? And I've always said that setbacks are opportunities for advancement, and if so there are always opportunities in that for learning or even making different choices. But I try to start it with knowing what I now know, what would I do differently if it's something that I contributed to or was there, or if it's like, knowing what I know, what should I do? And I try to think if it's financial, one of the hardest things to do is there's something called sunk cost, something you've already spent, like say you're researching a drug and you spent millions of dollars on this drug, and then someone else leapfrogs you, another ahead of you'll never catch them. You can double down and put more money in there to say, that's gone. It's just gone. Right. And try to look at the new investment as separate and apart. Needs to make a decision based on that. And sort of the same thing with time, or it can be relationships. So it's kind of the same thing. So how does your finite life, finite resources, finite ability weigh into making decisions and dealing with difficult situations? Then I often find there are people that know things I just don't know. And I find that every day. So sometimes I get perspective from different people and other things that I could do and learn from them, or have some people to help me to solve the problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. And oftentimes you have a blind spot. Like you can be, one of the things about being a determined person is sometimes you don't say when soon enough. That's and right. And other people can weigh in and give you some assistance. Like, maybe this one's run its course. So.
Yeah, having the ability to take a different perspective, change your perspective on stuff is really useful, because we get stuck in a mindset, and
absolutely
getting out of that mindset can be really difficult because it takes a lot of effort. There's a certain inertia that decisions have, and breaking that inertial cycle can be really tough. And so getting a different perspective, having advisors or trusted advisors.
Oh, absolutely.
Give you a different framework from which to examine things seems to be really helpful.
No doubt about it.
What do you think of all the projects and things you've done so far? What's the one thing you're most proud of?
Well, I guess being able to say I was part of taking Topgolf now to 4 foreign countries is interesting. And I've now in the U.S. I've been in 5 countries. And then I think, writing my first book called Who's Eating Your Pie was something was kind of like an opus of kind of all the things I've learned and from other people and shared. And that was something that I'm proud of. And working the project you see on the screensaver behind me was one that I helped to do it in my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina. So that was something that, of course, there's no one ever accomplishes anything alone. There's always a lot of people helping you, but those are things that have given me a sense of joy and accomplishment. And then on the personal side, seeing your children grow up and make decisions that you're proud of, and have them face their own struggles and setbacks and come through them. It's fulfilling. It can be wrenching. It can be difficult, but it can also be something you look back and like, attaboy,
That's neat. Yeah, there's a certain thrill about getting that, opening up the crate of your book, first book, and opening up and pulling it out, right?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. I thought my mom was going to buy the only copy. And so how many copies do you want, Mom? And then I was going through the Atlanta airport last week, and I saw it had a forward facing display next to a book, much better selling book than mine, but it was there nonetheless. And I've seen it in a few airports now, and it's some libraries, universities. So I was thrilled to see that.
Good for you. Yeah, I've written 4 books myself, so I know the process.
Wow, that's a lot of work, isn't it? That's another undertaking. I had no idea it was a job too. So I was like, wow, this is a lot.
My 4th book, De-escalate: How to Calm an Angry Person in 90 Seconds or Less, was actually pretty easy to write.
Wow.
Because I already was material that I've been teaching for a long time. I'm the co-founder of a project called the Prison of Peace Project, where we go into maximum security prisons and train people serving life sentences how to be powerful peacemakers to stop prison violence. And
gee whiz, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible project. But my students were begging me to write a book that they could share with their families, and they knew I was an author. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I had so many stories from prison and experience teaching this stuff. The book practically wrote itself in about 6 weeks.
That's so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones were tough. I mean, they're great books, but they took a lot more effort. But the 4th one was pretty simple.
I think, yeah, mine was 9 months, and then I trashed it, and I thought each chapter needs to give somebody hope, and it needs to give somebody a direction, and it needs to potentially change a life. And if it didn't do that, I just kept working on it till at least I thought it did that.
Oh, I love that.
It took extra time.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, the whole idea is to give value, right, and make it, your reader is investing time that they are giving up forever.
Right.
Read your stuff, so deliver good value. Interesting. Huh. So today you're busy. You're busy with Topgolf. You're busy with wealth management firm. Have you gotten out of the entertainment business? We didn't talk about that. You were a film.
No, I'm actually looking at another movie. So I've been part of about 50 films. Either through owning a firm that did marketing or having some that we helped to finance, or some combination of the two. And again, it's like everything else. A lot of people can take credit for it, but been partners with fantastic people and that have done it, and they've influenced culture in some ways. So that's been great. I'm looking at another movie now. So I've been helpful, but been part of with Unbroken, the Path to Redemption, Soul Surfer, 90 Minutes in Heaven, Heaven's for Real. I can only imagine. There's certain things, whether it's like marketing on the side, or in some cases help to invest. And now I'm looking at one that's more of a secular film with a A-list actress and a comedy. And I don't think I can discuss it too much. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but I might be at the Concept Film Festival soon.
Wow.
And if I'm there, it'll be because I'm choosing to take a part in this movie. But it'll be a larger budget with some bigger names. Most of the stuff I've done historically has been more of an independent nature, or a smaller budget, or more in the faith and family space. This would be just a funny movie. Everyone needs a laugh, so it's that kind of film.
Sounds like something you're kind of interested in.
I'm interested in it. Yeah, I mentioned. I guess, and in the last year, I guess we've financed, or I think 3 films in the last maybe 12 to 18 months, or partially financed 3 films, and that's always fun to do. It's kind of like you're having you don't really know how it turns out, until you're done, and film's a little tricky. It's in transition now between as a theatrical release, as an on-demand, is go to Netflix, sell to Amazon, and it's kind of a fun thing. But if you have to make a reasonable movie, you have a reasonable opportunity sometimes to exit with a reasonable return, or you can go into theaters and have a less predictable outcome. But if you feel good about it, maybe a better outcome. So it's kind of it's an interesting time.
Interesting. Well, one more question. What's the one thing about yourself that we would never know unless you revealed it to us?
Oh, probably the stutter is one of them. I guess others are just, there's so many things, but just trying to, I mean, for me, an important thing is being grateful, as I said before, overcoming obstacles, telling the people in your life you love them as often as you can. I hug my sons every time I see them. I think there's ages when they were just horribly embarrassed that would ever happen. Come here, come on, bring it in. And now they're just, oh, Dad, come on. So, it's kind of, I mean, that's something. So trying to show affection and appreciation to me is really important to do in life. And I certainly enjoy it myself. But I say that's something I don't share. But if you know me, that's kind of how I am. I love to kid and tease people a lot. Like if I've known you for 3 minutes, I'm going to give you a hard time. But joking and just enjoying a laugh together.
There you go. Well, to me, you are a perfect role model of how a successful businessman should be. So thank you so much
Very
for
kind.
coming with us today.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you so much.
You bet.